that you're going to be doing for me, and then videoing and then handing in. So we're just going to chat a little bit about the logistics around that, and how you're going to basically record your hands-on adjustments and what you're required to do. Okay, so did you guys get a chance to have a quick look at that video, the hands-on adjustment practical? Okay, so you have an idea about what you're going to be doing. But before we jump into that and ask questions and everything around that, let's talk a little bit around hands-on adjustments, all right? So physical adjustments, you as a teacher walk around and how you adjust and move your students. So who here enjoys hands-on adjustments? As a student in a class, who enjoys an adjustment? Yeah? And maybe just to open up as a discussion, how do you feel hands-on adjustments are helpful for you?
Sorry, Ari.
So we'll go, Marley, and then we'll come to Ari, go for it.
Sorry. Yeah, I like just the light adjustment to get my alignment corrected if it's out. But that's it, not too much pressure to force me into a pose.
Nice. So just to make sure that you are doing the pose correctly to help you find your alignment in the pose. Cool. And you, Marley?
I like it just to help me because I don't always feel how it should feel. And when I have the adjustment, I'm like, oh, okay, I can feel now what it should feel like. Because if you have to look at alignment, I mean, we're learning this now. But as a student in the class, you don't look at all the alignment, even though the teacher is telling you to do these things, you're not really doing half of it. So I enjoy it because if I just get that, it's very quick. It's like 2 seconds just to put me exactly in that. I'm like, okay, I feel it now. Next time I'll know. So that's what I like about adjustments.
So a short adjustment to make sure that you're feeling the pose where you should be feeling it. Yeah. And Elaine?
Yeah, also, I think it's like the kinesthetic memory, it's the experiential bit. I mean, I've seen the video, I watched the wrong video, so I only watched half of the other video. I got that message late. But, you know, I mean, I actually wish someone would push me into certain poses. I mean, I would love that, to be honest, but you know, it's probably not going to happen.
And is this something we have to be so careful about? I mean, because we may enjoy the experience of an adjustment, but now you guys as teachers going out there, it's going to be a very different experience, right? Clara?
Yeah, so I was thinking, like, I think I'm also a little bit on Elaine's team. I really enjoy it, like the sensation of it. But I also think that even with this training, I feel like it would still be tricky to adjust people.
Yeah. It's a really big topic. It's a really big subject, you know, because now you're placing your hands on another person's body and you need to really, know their body and know how you're moving them, especially those big adjustments. You'll see when you go through all the videos in that adjustment section, Catherine's going to bring up a whole lot of different adjustments and subjects and different styles and how they adjust. So you can kind of look at it a little bit more as well. And then also just to see how you feel. So if we looked at it as a student, and this is how it always goes, we always enjoy adjustments, like you guys said. But now, does anyone not enjoy hands-on adjustment as a student? Does anyone not enjoy getting an adjustment? Yeah? Pretty much everyone enjoys it. For me, I'm actually quite uncomfortable with people coming in, placing their hands and telling my body what to do. I've had a lot of injuries and sometimes I'm doing a pose in a particular way because I know this works best for my body. And for another person to come in and start fiddling and adjusting and pushing me further, which is normally what they're trying to do, actually makes me feel quite uncomfortable. So I'm one of those people that don't enjoy adjusting. And I'm often being adjusted for no reason. And someone's just putting their hands on me for no reason at all. And I find it quite irritating. So not everyone enjoys hands-on adjusting as well. Just to throw that in. Elaine.
I think the only time I don't enjoy it is when it's like a balanced pose and I'm just praying to all the gods that I can just actually hold the limited pose I've got, and then I get, you know, expected to do something over and above that, and it's already too much as it is.
You know, adjusting in a balance can be helpful if someone knows what they're doing to really steady you and put you on your foot and into your balance and then let you go. But adjusting in a balance is terrible because you're trying hard enough just to stay there. Marley.
I can relate, not like the balancing, but for instance, if I get adjusted the first time around and I don't do it the second time, it might mean that it's actually sore. I'm not enjoying doing it. It might be not right, but it's hurting me. So yeah, the second adjustment on the same thing, that is a no-no for me. The first adjustment is fine, but I also don't know, like, when would you know if people are just keep on getting it wrong, or if somebody like me just says, well, I'm not going to do it like that because it's actually hurting my hip, or
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah.
So
it's a really tricky thing. Like for you as well, you have a sore hip on the one side, so you might just be doing the pose a little bit less on that side because that's how it feels better for you. And if a teacher is unaware of that and now starts pushing you into the pose, there's a whole lot of different dynamics. It can be really quite tricky to navigate your way through, especially as new teachers now.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have anything else they would like to share? Has anyone had a really bad experience in a hands-on adjustment?
I've fallen in a balance, actually in an attempt to do crow. And then kind of on the way up, the teacher came and just lifted my feet. And so I just fell.
Oh, that's crazy. I mean, you would think that would happen because you're already in a lever, hey? Yeah, and then it's scary. Yeah, so there have been a lot of bad adjustments as well, and really extreme adjustments where people have actually injured themselves because maybe their hips are really tight, their knees are up here by their ears, and a teacher comes and lies on their back in butterfly pose. Their bone structure has stopped here, and then by adding load onto that body, things can get really sore or injured. And, you know, we've also heard of very scary, horrible injuries happening with adjustment. Why would it be necessary to lie on top of someone? Is that helping them to get a deeper pose, forcing a pose? What is the benefit there? Elaine?
Yeah, I mean, I recently hurt myself in butterfly pose, just in yin, just in my home practice, and I was just so happy with myself. I had, my head is on my feet. This feels so cool, and I still have so much pain in my hip joint, my hip flexor from that. Oh. So I can imagine someone putting weight on it to force it. Oh.
Can you imagine how upset you would feel if someone else pushed you to that point? You know?
Yeah. Mm.
So with that, as now a new teacher going out there and teaching yoga, do you feel that you'll be doing a lot of hands-on adjusting? Who feels comfortable to adjust? Who feels that they probably won't be giving much hands-on adjusting? And then this is what it's always like. In every course, everyone says, oh, they love hands-on adjustments. But then when they're asked to do hands-on adjustments, they're like, oh, whoa, no. So everything you're experiencing is completely normal. And it's a good thing, all right? Because you new teachers, you're only just figuring out all the poses in your own body now. You're understanding anatomy on a different level and understanding how different bodies work, how joints can be different, how things move. So as new teachers going out there, it's a huge responsibility to feel, that you know best and can force someone into a pose. So it's good to be fearful of hands-on adjusting at this stage. until you get to feel a little bit more comfortable with your teaching, comfortable with your students, understand what's going on in their bodies before going in and just deciding that you know what's best to adjust. Okay. But there are adjustments and there's adjustments, all right? Well, of course, we're going to say don't go lie on top of people in a forward fold. It's not necessary, okay? You're going to most likely hurt someone. But we can offer little adjustments of, instead of having your arm here, bring your arm over here. So we can also guide the body with small actions to help them to, again, like you were saying, know if you're doing the pose correctly for alignment, or to make sure that you're feeling it in the right place, and all those little things, and they don't need to be massive adjustments. Okay, so this is why you're doing this practical, to give it a go with someone that hopefully you feel comfortable with, that you can just explore using your hands to adjust in a pose. Okay, before I move on any further, do you guys have anything you'd like to add or anything you'd like to ask at this point? Okay, so first of all, when we go out there, verbal cues, okay, verbal adjustments. So that's kind of your go-to when you're teaching a class or a private. First of all, try and cue them how you would like the pose corrected, because that's also most beneficial that they kind of can explore that in their body. So if their arm is here and you want it over in line with the ear for side angle pose, see if you can bring your arm over in line with your ear. You don't always need to use your hands to get them to move into that shape. You can verbally cue. So that's always your go-to adjustment. You can say, Lara, in this pose, can you bend your front knee a little bit more? Boom, they're going to understand where to do it and find it in their own body instead of jumping hands on. What are other ways that we can correct people in poses before jumping in with our hands?
I guess we can ask them to look at others.
Yeah.
If we have others in the class.
Absolutely. So you can say, look at Clara's in this pose. Can you see how Clara's got her foot placed like this? And then a visual guide is so, so helpful. What are other ways that you could kind of help them understand what they need to do in order to correct or adjust in the pose? Elaine?
Well, maybe you could suggest they use a prop.
Yeah, so we can. Then you're adjusting the pose. Perfect. Yeah. We can incorporate props to help them find that pose. But you can also demonstrate. So if someone wasn't understanding what you meant by bringing your arm over in line with your ear, you could then say to them, look here, and see what I'm doing and help them to come into the pose. Okay, so if a verbal instruction doesn't work, then try a demonstration. Whether you're getting someone else to demonstrate, like Clara says, look here, or use yourself to go, can you see? Instantly that message is translated. Okay, and sometimes I always quite like, especially with this online world, is getting people to kind of feel it in their own body. Remember when we did our high lunge, I got you to put your hands into your ribs and say, feel that length into the sides of your body, feel that length in your spine, and then reach up. So you're almost using your own hands to adjust in the pose, which I think is also quite cool, just to bring that awareness to those different parts of your body. Okay. So we have lots of ways of adjusting in a pose. So you can explore that also when you do your adjustment practice. Say the verbal cue. Maybe you demonstrate it if you're teaching someone at home that maybe has never done yoga before. You may have to demonstrate. And then once they're in the pose, then you can come around and move their arm or do the adjustment which Catherine has demonstrated for you to feel. Okay. So, any questions before we move on? Elaine?
Just questions about the video.
So you want me to guide you through? Give me just 1 second. I'm so sorry. Pause for a sec. You can chat amongst yourselves.
so much time for ourselves.
Can I actually ask a question that's been on my mind since the video to most of the ladies who've been adjusted by men, and if that was something that was uncomfortable or if it was fine for most of you?
Sure, that's a good question. I've never been adjusted by a man. I've actually never, no, I've had one yoga class with a man before. Most of them were women, so I can't really.
I have, but they've all been hot, so it's been okay.
I think I've also had male teachers, a lot of them, and I think what they've done quite well is to kind of in the beginning ask if anyone like is uncomfortable with being adjusted, and then when they've come, they've said, do you mind if I just assist you here? I will be touching you there, which I think it's a nice little touch.
Can I just ask a question? My electricity just came on and I was struggling to connect via my phone. What is this assignment that we have to do?
We haven't got there, Dee, don't worry. You're just chatting at this point.
Cool.
It's a really great question Matt asked, so I'm going to go for it, Nicole. I'm going to leave you guys to talk it through.
For me, I think as a female, especially because we're older now, you sort of get a feeling of like of the person, like the energy that they carry. It's also like a terrible judgment to make, but so you can sort of feel when it's perverse and when it's not. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think it's a very tricky thing. Yeah, Marley?
Shouldn't you be asking that anyway, though? Because we say now men for women, but it's the other way around as well. Like it should be like men should also feel like they don't want to be adjusted maybe by a woman.
Linda?
So our yoga teacher is an older man, and every single class he always asks whether it's the same people doing the yoga class every week. He always asks if anyone is uncomfortable with being adjusted, please raise your hand and then I will know, or if I come to you and you are uncomfortable in that pose, you just tell me, and then so every time it's asked.
Has anyone else received any other means of a teacher getting consent before they adjust you? Okay. Ruan.
This wasn't for me, but it's something I heard on a podcast where before class they take cards, either a red card or a green card, and they put it in front of their mat. And so when the person sees the green card, they know it's okay for adjustments, and the red card is no.
Yeah,
that's very cool. That is super, super cool.
It's really nice. So because let's think about it, if a teacher comes to you and you're in downward facing dog or something like that, and they say, can I adjust? How do you feel in that moment saying no? Is it easy to say no? Not always, because sometimes you just take it a little back. Yeah, sure, it's fine, even if you're maybe not comfortable being adjusted. So yes, I agree. It's always good to just check. I'm going to adjust. Are you okay with that? We can always still ask for consent, but it's not always easy for people to say no as well. So I really like Ruan's suggestion there with a card. And we've also heard of ways that there's like little pebbles, like stones that say, I want to be adjusted or I don't want to be adjusted. And if they can turn, like the card, if there's a red side and a green side, you may walk into that class and say, I want to be adjusted. And then halfway through feel, oh no, listen, I'm actually feeling really emotional or something's come up for me and I've changed my mind. And you can change the card to then say no, or to change the pebble. So those are really, really nice ways. Anything else you guys want to add with that?
I was just thinking that, go on.
Laura, you go.
No, I was just thinking that maybe if you don't have something like cards or whatever available, you could also maybe, if people have a water bottle or if people have stuff with them, maybe you can in some way ask them to position it in a certain way if they want or don't want to be adjusted.
Absolutely. Marley?
Yeah, I think the more conservative that sign is, the better, because not even just when you're in the birds might not want to say in front of, because everybody looks around, who doesn't want to be adjusted? Let's see. Who, and maybe they don't want to, oh no, everybody's looking and nobody's putting up their hand, I'm not going to do it, but actually they're not comfortable. So instead of making it a thing, like Clara also said, you know, like maybe just something that you can put there, nobody's really going to see, or a little pebble or a little thing. Yeah, people are, you have that whole like herd community type of thing that people do what other people are doing, and they might not necessarily have the guts to say, yeah, I'm not comfortable.
Most people, it's not a comfortable thing. It's like when you get to a class and the teacher asks, does anyone have any injuries or any of you pregnant? Does anyone put up their hand and say? It's like, no, I don't want everyone to know, or, you know, or I don't, you know, they're not going to tell the whole class that they're sore or injured or pregnant or going through anything or don't want to be touched. It's a tricky thing. So it's something to really think about as a teacher is how do we get consent when we're adjusting, you know, and we don't know the people that we're adjusting. If someone's new to your class, that if you come around with a strap or something like that, that it may trigger past trauma or anything like that. We don't know what people have gone through, how comfortable they are with being adjusted or propped or strapped or anything like that. And we have to be actually very mindful of how we approach this. So it's something to really think about. And that's why we say to you guys, especially as new teachers, just verbally correct. Demonstrate if they don't understand. Get them to touch themselves and feel, okay, oh, wow, okay, I see what you mean now. And only kind of as a last resort, a small hands-on adjustment. And even then go, okay, I'm gonna adjust your hips so that you can feel how your hips should be straight in the pose. Is that okay? Even then, they might not feel comfortable to say no, but you could often pick up on people's body language quite strongly as well. If they're very resistant when you come near them, just let them be. It's fine. You don't have to get everyone into the most perfect pose. Sometimes people are there in yoga just to breathe and move and just to be left alone because they just actually just want to release. And they don't need to be forced and poked and prodded into the perfect pose. And then when you're also doing an adjustment, you can also really feel how someone's responding to you. Are they, and they often are like, ah, or, ooh, it feels nice. And you get maybe a positive feedback. Or if they're really stiff and as soon as you've touched them, they've actually just like braced, then you know they're not comfortable with being adjusted. So there's so many different layers to this. There's so many different aspects. Clara.
I quite liked what you say, that you're explaining what you're going to do. I think that also is a very important element. And maybe if it's a pose that you know as a teacher, you know that you will return to, maybe you can also say, next time we arrive in down dog, maybe just give me a hands up. If you want me to adjust you, I can see that I can maybe help you a bit here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's going to be an interesting thing for you to kind of feel and navigate. And it also is so dependent on the students you're going to have as well. Because some people just love being adjusted and almost are going to nag you to be adjusted. And then you're going to have other people that are really, really uncomfortable. And once you get to know your students, you can also you get to know who's comfortable and who's not comfortable, especially in smaller classes, which is so lovely, that you can have a little bit more of a discussion and that personal relationship to kind of get to know your people, what they're comfortable with. I mean, I know in big classes, the teachers are told just don't adjust. If there's too many people, they are just leading the class and they're not walking around and adjusting because there's too many people, they don't know the people coming in. But in smaller groups or in private classes, it's actually a nice way to maybe feel if someone is happy with that. And if they are, then it's maybe a place to explore how you would adjust. Okay. And then also once you've given an adjustment, it's always quite nice to go, how does that feel? Does that feel okay? Could you feel now that you're stretching into your hamstrings more? So you've made that connection of, okay, this is why we've adjusted the pose. Can you feel the benefit? And sometimes they won't. That's also okay. Don't be hard on yourself if they don't even move when you try and do something. Just let them be. So it's a very interesting process. Okay. Any other questions? Anything else you want to share or add to that? Okay. So you are going to do a little hands-on adjustment practical. Okay. So in the video, you saw Catherine adjusting her stepdaughter Erin into some poses, right? Pretty much the most common poses that we're faced with as teachers. So downward dog, plank, cat-cow. And you're just going to find someone hopefully that you feel comfortable with, if someone doesn't mind, that you can kind of just explore how to do hands-on adjustments while you're in the course, and so that we can also help you if you're doing something terribly wrong or anything like that. We can just kind of help you facilitate this process. Even though when you go out there and teach, you probably won't go out and do hands-on adjustments straight away, but it might be something that, you know, you want to help someone move into a pose or adjust their hips or help them in the pose and they're looking for that. This is to help you kind of get an experience of how to adjust safely, what to be aware of, how to go about it, and everything that's involved in hands-on adjusting. Okay. So you are going to record yourself. So you can record yourself on your phone or on Zoom. I'm sure you figured it out with your teaching practicals with Taryn. Okay. It doesn't need to be a crazy long thing. You'll see there's a couple of poses that you will be doing. And you're basically going to do exactly what Catherine's done. Just copy exactly what she's done. So if they're in a little halfway lift, bringing them up higher and maybe getting them to lengthen their spine more. Or in high lunge, you're going to move their arms so that you can get a feel for how to adjust in the pose. And you're going to copy all of those poses except two of them where Catherine is sitting on the floor with Erin and she's got her foot and she's adjusting her hips in a forward bend, okay, to sit more forwards. And I think she does it with her foot a little bit as well. That's just an observation for how you could possibly adjust in a seated forward fold, but I don't want you guys to do that. Okay, you'll see in the video, you're not going to do the sacrum adjustment in forward fold, and I think it's in butterfly as well. But you'll do all the rest in the standing poses, in plank, on cat-cow, in downward facing dog, to explore how to do those adjustments, except for the sacrum adjustment. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. Any questions before I keep talking? So maybe this is also a nice time to, once you found someone, you can even say, okay, I'm going to be doing some adjustments. How do you feel about that? You can kind of explore different ways of getting consent as well. Maybe you want to try a little card playing or anything like that. It's completely up to you, okay? So my advice when you are doing adjustments, okay? Instead of running in there with your hands and starting to move bodies, okay? Step back. All right, it's like you're taking in a piece of artwork. You're not going to look at the artwork like this because you're not going to be able to take in the whole picture, right? So you want to stand back and look at the pose as a whole, okay? So of course you need to get them into the pose. So get their feet in the right place. You may have to even demonstrate a little bit to get them into the pose, especially if it's someone who's never done yoga, if it's someone at home that you're going to be doing this with, they're the hardest people to teach. So it's actually a good experience. Okay, once they're in the pose, give yourself a moment, stand back and have a look. What do you see? Okay, And then first of all, like we've kind of been doing in our poses, is start from the feet and then work your way up through the body. So the first thing we always want to adjust and need to check in with the feet and the stance. So you felt in all your standing poses, if you're too narrow in your feet, there's less space to move, right? We want to try and adjust that stance so that their feet are wide enough. And often with beginners, that is the main thing that you need to verbally adjust. You can say, step your feet a bit wider, because you're not going to be able to do that with your hands. Okay. And or show them what you want in the pose. Okay. Or step your foot here and point to where you want it on the mat. Okay. Once you've adjusted the stance, then you can work up through the body. Are the feet in the right position? Are the hips pointing in the right place? If you're in pyramid, are the hips pointing forwards? If you're in warrior two, has the body kind of turned towards the side? Okay. And then you can have a look at the spine. Is the spine lengthened in the position that you want it to be in? And then lastly, adjusting kind of hands or arms. Okay, so take your time, step back, look, and try and see what you need to fix before jumping into the pose. Okay, it's my best advice for you going forwards, just in all teaching, is to try and see what's going on. So you're not trying like a whole list of things, but that you can try and pick up exactly, okay, where is the issue coming from? Is it because their feet are too narrow? Is it because they're leaning forwards in triangle pose that they can't turn and open their chest? Identify where that's coming from. It's my best advice. It's going to be the best thing to do as a teacher, to pick up how to help your students, because it takes time to be able to see. You can even see it in your own bodies now when you're fixing and correcting yourself, to figure out how you need to fix yourself. Now you need to translate that to another person's body that moves totally different to yours. They might be more flexible, they might be tighter, and to figure out, identify where that's coming from. So very interesting experience with that. Any questions? Elaine?
What happens if they get everything, or in a position if they get everything right and there is no need?
So that also may happen. If everything looks totally fine, then you can even just say in the video, I'm actually quite happy with this pose, but I'm going to show the adjustment just for the sake of this, practical. If their hips were skew, I would do this with their hips, and then you can kind of just fake it a little bit, just so that you can get a sense. But you can just say verbally, it actually looks fine. I'm happy with this pose. But if someone was a bit tighter, I would say do this. Okay. And another thing I wanted to say, if someone is like rounding in a pose, or they're really struggling to find length and expansion and opening in the pose, your go-to kind of thing is reduce the range of movement. So instead of having them with their hands on the floor, bring them up higher. So instead of going all the way to the edge of the pose, come up higher. All right, and it helps so much. Like in triangle pose, if they're rounding in their triangle pose, let them come higher up, and you'll see that in the adjustments with Catherine as well. If you bring them up higher, they're able to lengthen and open much more in the poses. Okay, so that's also very, very helpful. Just do less. Okay, it's such a helpful go-to thing if someone is struggling or not able to do the pose. My Wi-Fi went a bit funny there. Are you guys still with me? Sorry, guys, I lost you for a second. Are we all good?
Yeah, we can.
You're all just like froze there for a moment.
We're all just listening to you. Sitting very still.
Okie dokie. So those are the main points that I wanted to go through with you guys. Look, see, before you adjust. Start from the feet, work your way up. And then as a go-to, if anyone's struggling, do less. And then they'll be able to lengthen and open and be in a better pose by just coming up higher. Whether it's in a forward fold or a standing pose, you'll see that. Okay, and then after you adjusted, maybe you can also go like, how does that feel? You know, or just like kind of check in, and you can just kind of play and explore the experience of adjusting with your hands. Okay. How do you feel about this? Any questions? All good? Nicole?
Just out of interest, if you're sort of having not a kids class, but people under the age of like, I don't know, 18, do you then cover yourself by asking the parents, like also about like adjustments and things?
Yeah, you definitely can. I mean, I think like we chatted about the pregnancy stuff, always have an indemnity form. And if someone is under 18, like you would normally in any other position, just get their parents to sign consent, that they're happy to move, that they're going to be doing yoga. And, you know, if you wanted to add, you could also say that we will be doing gentle hands-on adjustment if anything is comfortable, or if there's anything you need to be aware of, if there's any kind of triggers. I hate using the word triggers these days, but it is a thing. It is a thing. I think it's good. And for everyone. Marley.
So following to what Nicole said, what if you're not part of a formal institution where you have indemnity forms? Like I'm considering just doing free yoga classes in the park. So whoever comes. I don't want to make it a very formal thing. Would it be okay just to, I guess that's a chance you take, just to ask beforehand and say, does anybody have a problem? And
yeah. Laura, do you have something to add to that?
I do. So because I that I to the parent, if I'm about to adjust a child.
Laura, your connection's quite bad. We're struggling to hear you.
I always ask, my Wi-Fi is quite bad.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Yeah, always ask first.
As structured, you should still have a little paper, even if it's just a small little A4, and let them sign just for in case.
What I would do, Marley, sorry, I lost you guys there. It was actually my fault. If you had like a check-in sheet that when they arrived at the class, instead of like filling out a whole form, they can just write their name and maybe their email address, which is quite cool for future classes, that you can have a mailing list. And then at the top of the form, it says, I consent to being here in yoga. I understand that I'm going to be moving my body and I don't hold any of my teachers liable. So then that can be quite an informal way of just, when you arrive, just put your name on the sheet. And then they are actually somewhat signing something, and you get the email address, which is useful for a database.
That's, you still have that consent. That's really cool. Thanks.
Laura, I'm sorry I missed what you said, Laura. Did you guys hear everything Laura wanted to say there? Was that clear enough for you, Laura? Okay.
I just wanted to add, I mean, I have drop-ins all the time. And sometimes, I mean, and with COVID, I mean, they have to message me first on my adverts. It's just, they have to do it. It's essential. And the first thing I do is I just WhatsApp them a PDF of my form and whatever, just so they can sign it beforehand and send it back to me.
Yes.
You don't have to do it in person. And I know it's hard if someone just pops in, but it's right off the bat. I don't want any of those complications or anything like that. So
I think that's awesome. A lot of
someone-
send out a PDF, or sometimes there's an online booking sheet that they fill it in, and it's all done electronically without that hassle of having it in the class. If you have a booking system, it works great. Okay, and then we'll come to you, Ruan.
I just wanted to ask, in regards to adjusting children, like, isn't that like very risky? Things are still they may be overly flexible. I mean, I'm just very risky children.
Yeah, so I think you're gonna have a little
for
session.
Laura or for me?
Sorry, who's chatting there?
Like how she's feeling, can she butterfly her legs up and down? And if she battles, I leave her be. If she's in downward dog, it's all verbal. And if I see she's battling with just her feet placements, then I'll come and stand next to her and move her around. I'll just hold her there and let her adjust whilst I talk her through it. I never force a child into a position. If they can't do it, can't. They just watch. They do what they do, and I mean, and sometimes they just bounce into positions. So.
Totally, and they're there for fun. They're not there to like be in the most perfect pose. They're there to have fun and explore, and it's just let their bodies move, and they'll get it. It's all good. Yeah, I wouldn't adjust too much with kids. Taryn does a kids yoga teacher training as well. So if it's something you're really keen to do, we offer kids teacher training, and you can kind of look into all those aspects as well. Yeah, children can do the pose totally different. They'll be ridiculously flexible or look really silly in the pose. Let them be. Clara.
It was just about doing the yoga in the park. I've been to a place where they did like the advertisement for it, saying like everyone who joins, it's own responsibilities, blah blah blah. And then they did have a little sign-up sheet with just a recap of it, and then in between some of the flows, like so after, for example, the sun salutation, if new people had arrived, they would just say, just remember, this is like an open class, you can sign up here, those are the people that I will be taking responsibility for. So I think there are ways to kind of get around some of those late joiners.
Yes, excellent. Thanks, Clara. Great suggestion. All right. Any other questions? Anything else you would like to add around the hands and adjustments? So Dee, you asked where to find the video. It's on the website. All right, Catherine sent a picture actually this morning on the WhatsApp group, the exact video that you're watching. So you will find it there under all the adjustment videos. The last one is the adjustment practical, and you will find that video there with Catherine going through all the poses that you're going to be adjusting. Okay, and then check on WhatsApp. You've got a little picture there to also show you exactly which one. Okay. Clara. Oh.
No, it was old.
Oh, it was old. Sinead.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi was doing this.
Oh, all good. Mine too.
Same in the beginning, I didn't even know what was going on. So you said two things we weren't allowed to do was, it's just the sacrum.
The sacrum adjustment. So you'll see in the forward fold, moving from the hips, okay, and then there's also one with the legs in butterfly, and then also tilting forwards from the hips. You don't need to do those sacral adjustments, okay, but all the rest of the standing ones, plank, down dog, all of those are fine. But it's a good way to just show you the ones that you're not doing, how we're encouraging that tilt forwards from the hips. But it's quite a complicated adjustment, so we don't want you guys jumping into that one straight away. Rather, you would just bend the knees or sit on a block like we've had before when we did the forward bends, rather than adjusting that.
still going to do those poses.
You don't have to do those poses. Just leave those up completely.
We're not going to work on anything else. Just ignore them. So no butterfly.
Just ignore them. Just ignore them. Okay. And then I think that is due to me next weekend. But if you have it done and you want to send it a little bit sooner, you're welcome just to send that through whenever you're ready. Just as you send your videos through to Taryn, you can just make the file a bit smaller and send it to me, whatever means you used the last time, whatever works for you. Okay. Doesn't need to be long. You can see Catherine's whole thing is under half an hour. So yours won't be terribly long. It can just be quick, moving through the poses, showing your adjustment. Doesn't need to be very long, just so that you can explore it. Okay. And if there's any like red flags for me, then I'll let you know. Amy.
Sorry, my internet went a bit weird. I want to ask, with adjustments, are we going to have a person that we're going to do the adjustments on in our video?
Yes,
okay.
Yes, please. So you're going to have to find a volunteer that's willing, that you can just do those few poses with. So whether it's someone you live with or a friend or someone you can just get to help you just to go through those poses. Okay. Good luck. It's always hardest adjusting people you know, or teaching friends or families or partners. So if you can get through that, you can handle anyone just about. Okay. And we just check the chat that there weren't any other questions. Anything else? Feeling all good about that? Okay. All right, so I'll see your adjustment videos coming in and I will see you then next weekend. That's it from me. I will see you for your final pose reviews next Saturday. Good luck. Practice everything that we've chatted about together. Dee?
Sorry. Laura, before you go, can you just spend 2 minutes with me and just tell me about those pose reviews? Thank you.
Perfect, no problem, Dee. When the others log out, then we'll just have a little chat. All good. Anyone else have anything else they'd like to add, share, or ask? Okay. Enjoy your session with Bev later today. And I will see you all next weekend. Cool. Bye.
Bye.